woo. I can't woo like Phoebe woos. I don't know how she does that. It's literally like a 3-letter word. Woo, woo. I don't know, I'm like not a singer, so sorry. Hi everyone, welcome to this video. On my channel, I analyze song lyrics very in depth through the lens of literary analysis. Today we're going to be analyzing another song by Phoebe Bridgers. I've already analyzed the song Scott Street, so I'll make sure to link that down below for you. Today we're going to be discussing the possible song meaning for her song Kyoto. I want to apologize if I'm mispronouncing Kyoto. I did look up how to say it, and the video that seemed the most legit pronounced it Kyoto. So hopefully I pronounced it correctly. As a quick disclaimer, music is very subjective, so everything I discuss in this video is just my own personal opinion. I always encourage you guys to tell me what your perspective is down below in the comments. I really value words a lot, so in my analyses, I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. If you watch my channel, you know that I don't look up other people's interpretations when I do these videos. I don't need their vibes all up in my vibes. However, sometimes I do look up what the artists themselves have said for context. I've been listening to a lot of Phoebe's music, and I don't think I want to look up anything she said about her music because her lyrics are pretty ambiguous. They don't really follow a direct plot, not the way that, like, for example, Taylor Swift's music does. What I find the case to be with most Phoebe Bridgers songs is that she has like little vignettes of imagery that all connote a certain emotion. And I think the goal of it, or at least for me, the goal that I see from her little vignettes are to feel the emotion. So I'm trying to like identify emotions with Phoebe. I'm not really trying to craft a plot with her as often. And please keep in mind, this is just how I experience her music and that's what resonates with me. I'm not telling you that you should think about it in this way, and I don't know if this was Phoebe's intent. But as of right now, that's how I am relating to most of her music. And I really enjoy it. I really do love ambiguity in art, and I appreciate like abstract images and just kind of things grouped together based on emotion. I think that's very beautiful and that's really cool. So again, that's what's resonating with me. When I was preparing for my Scott Street analysis, I decided that I don't really think I'm gonna look up things that Phoebe has said about her songs because they are more on the ambiguous side. I just want to apply what I think to it. I think it would make it more interesting. I will say that for this song in particular, I do already know that it's about her relationship with her father because I saw that in an interview with her before I had even started analyzing Phoebe on this channel. So I do know it's about her relationship with her father. So I am going to be incorporating that piece of information. I know that like kind of contradicts what I just said, but I accidentally know that. I'm accidentally very knowledgeable. Kyoto is a setting. It's a city in Japan. We've talked about settings as being the main subject of songs before. I will link the songs about setting that I've analyzed so far in the description box if you want to watch. I think that every setting can be referring to a literal place, or it could be referring to an internal place within you, like emotionally or mentally or spiritually. Locations can hold memories for us. They can also elicit and catalyze memories for us. And a lot of times we as humans do define ourselves in relation to places. Here though, I do think that it's referring to a particular place. I think it's a place where the protagonist of this song, protagonist means the main character, where the protagonist had maybe an epiphany of sorts, and so whenever they hear or think about Kyoto, they think about the thought processes they had while they were there. Let's get started with verse 1. I think that the protagonist was not feeling so great on their day off in Kyoto. We know that Phoebe grew up in California. There are a lot of 7-Elevens in California, right? It's not a novel place. Instead of venturing out and seeing the beauty that Kyoto has to offer, the protagonist of this song went to the 7-Eleven. To me, this is indicative of the protagonist's internal state. Everyone responds to their emotional state differently. Sometimes if people are not doing emotionally okay, they like to go out and do things to distract themselves. But other times people may want to pull away and isolate themselves. They may not want to venture anywhere new. They may not want to do something fun. They may want to just stay somewhere that's familiar and feel safer. The 7-Eleven in Kyoto is going to be different than the 7-Eleven in California, but there's going to be less new stimuli to process. It's going to be more familiar, right? So that's like a safer alternative. When I was 18, I moved to a completely different state. It's weird to get culture shock when you move within the same country, but I literally got culture shock. Like, the grocery stores were really different. The new place that I moved to, I was like, I don't understand how this grocery store works. I remember thinking that I need to just go somewhere familiar and just feel normal for a second. So I found a Target and I went to a Target, and it helped me like calm down and feel chill. I felt like I had a sense of control when I went to that Target. I was like, okay, a Target exists here. So like, things do make sense here, and it's fine. Like, I'll make sense of other things too. Target always helps. I do get the sense that the emotional state here is a lot deeper and perhaps darker than what I experienced, but I think it's a similar sort of thing where you're using a familiar place to try to ground you in a larger place that is very unfamiliar. This is further illustrated when the protagonist wanted to go to the arcade, but they didn't go. Again, to me, that sort of decision making is indicative of an internal state which is not super balanced. Since I know this song is about her relationship with her dad, I'm assuming that this phone call was from her father. I don't know if this actually happened. I get the sense that perhaps the protagonist did have a conversation with their father in Kyoto about their relationship, and that's why this song is called Kyoto, right? Because that was the location for this important life conversation. Her dad was saying that he's gonna get sober, and he wrote her a letter. The statements that the father here is making, they're pretty like heavy statements. There's a lot of emotion tied to it. I do think that this conversation is why this place, why this setting, why Kyoto has significance to the protagonist. I do find it interesting that the protagonist seems to be talking directly to their father because of the word you. She says, "You called me." That does make this seem a little bit more intimate, and it seems like we're getting a glimpse into like a private moment between the protagonist and her father. "I'm gonna kill you if you don't beat me to it." The diction here is very interesting. The word kill is obviously very violent and very intense. It seems like this notion of wanting to kill each other could end up being mutual because the protagonist says, "If you don't beat me to it, I'm gonna kill you first." This suggests that the relationship between the protagonist and her father is not super stable. Because before this, in verse 1, when the father was saying they're gonna get sober and they wrote her a letter, that, was emotional, but the emotions weren't heightened in a negative way. They were heightened in like a sad way. But now there's anger involved. So this is like a different emotional side of this relationship that we're seeing. It's more of an angry side. This shows us that the protagonist is frustrated with their father, perhaps. We don't know what caused that sentiment to occur, but it's definitely different than the connotation of the end of verse 1. "Dreaming through Tokyo skies, I wanted to see the world, then I flew over the ocean, and then I changed my mind." And then we have the infamous woo. So the first two lines of this verse, again, have that violent connotation, but then the rest of it has like a pretty chill connotation, relatively. "Dreaming through Tokyo skies." The word dreaming has a pretty calm connotation. When I hear the phrase Tokyo skies, I think of her perhaps flying through the Tokyo skies, like on the plane, or she could just be in Tokyo and she's looking up at the clouds and she's daydreaming. Or literally, she could have just been literally asleep on a plane having a literal dream while that plane was over Tokyo. So there's different ways to think about it. "I wanted to see the world, then I flew over the ocean and I changed my mind." Perhaps before coming to Kyoto, the protagonist had this dream of going there and seeing the sights, getting to know the culture, trying the food. And when she got there, she didn't go to the arcade and she went to the 7-Eleven, which she literally has at home, right? So maybe this is talking about the expectations she has, and it's being compared here with the reality of what happened. Maybe that's why she changed her mind, because she didn't do what she may have wanted to do. I don't view her changing her mind as like a defiant thing. I view it as a more somber sort of resolve sort of thing. In this verse, we have a shift. We're back to California. I believe that sunset is referring to Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. The fact that she's leaving LA and going out to the suburbs suggests to me that the protagonist really wants to exist in a place that's more calm. The suburbs are generally much more quiet than the city, especially Sunset Boulevard, which is very famous, and it's like a tourist destination as well. So there's a lot of people there. There's a lot going on. It could be a lot more chaotic. There are a lot of chemtrails in Southern California. We established this in my analysis of the song Chemtrails Over the Country Club by Lana Del Rey. I will link my analysis down below for you. In that video, I literally cited an article that said chemtrails are very, very prevalent in Southern California. So I thought that was interesting. When you look up at the chemtrails, it's like a more leisurely activity. I don't think that's metaphorical in the song. I interpreted chemtrails as being very metaphorical in Lana's song because chemtrails are considered a conspiracy theory. I don't get that connotation here. I just think it's meant to illustrate doing something that's more leisurely, that's juxtaposed with the energy of Sunset Boulevard. For me, when I think of someone parking at the Goodwill to stare at the chemtrails, I think of them kind of parking and getting like on the hood of their car and just kind of lying down with their back on the windshield and looking up. You're literally just looking up at the sky. Whenever anyone looks up, I view that metaphorically as very positive. To add to that feeling of calmness, the protagonist's little brother is mentioned. So we have the suburbs, we have a family member, her brother there. So this is a much more like chill environment that the protagonist is referring. If we want to make this a little bit more like metaphorical, we can view this as what the protagonist is striving for in her internal state. She wants to exist in an emotional internal space that is more calm and more tranquil. He said you called on his birthday, you were off by like 10 days, but you get a few points for trying. I do think it's interesting that she's mentioning that very specific detail. I always talk about how specificity brings forth intimacy and relatability in song lyrics. I talk about that a lot in regards to Taylor Swift lyrics, the vulnerability of even including this in a song. This all really allows for the audience to feel more connected to the song and to feel like their friend is just kind of giving them an update of something that happened in their life. Remember getting the truck fixed when you let us drive it? And then the next lyric is my favorite lyric in the song. I think it's very beautiful. 25 felt like flying. I do want to state again that I think it's interesting that a lot of what's being said is directed towards the protagonist's dad. That's at least how I'm interpreting it. It's kind of like a stream of consciousness sort of thing, but within different moments in time, all directed towards the father. So now this is a different memory. She's talking about getting the truck fixed with her father. The 25, I believe, is referring to driving 25 miles per hour. I find that lyric very beautiful. 25 felt like flying because it makes that memory seem pretty magical. I'm assuming they were younger when they did this, and 25 miles per hour seemed really fast. What I enjoy about this lyric is that the context it's in is very sad because all of the events that happened with the protagonist and her father, you know, their relationship, have already happened, and I'm assuming that this truck memory was when they were younger. I'm assuming that truck memory was a lot happier. So this makes this lyric so incredibly bittersweet because there's the innocence of childhood, 25 felt like flying, and it's existing within the heavier context of the present day protagonist where this relationship with her father has become much more complicated. Again, that's just my own takeaway from this. I could literally be so far off from reality, but that's how I'm thinking about the song, just based on the diction, just based on the progression of the lyrics. There's like a somber undertone to it, which I really enjoy. I don't enjoy that it's somber for the protagonist, but I enjoy the way that it is stated here. I would love to know what you make of that lyric down below in the comments. I don't forgive you, but please don't hold me to it. That's an interesting lyric. The protagonist is saying, don't expect me to keep not forgiving you, suggesting that perhaps one day she will forgive him. It's kind of like a hot and cold thing between the protagonist and their father. Not intentionally, I just think that perhaps is like the natural structure or the natural undercurrent of their relationship. What zodiac sign is Phoebe Bridgers?
The astrological sign of Phoebe Bridgers is Leo.
I just wanted to see if Phoebe was a Scorpio or not. So then I would assume that Scorpio was referring to her father. Perhaps he was born under Scorpio skies. The fact that Scorpio skies is referred to here could just be like a context sort of thing. It's making it more personal to the person it's about, or it could be referring to the characteristics of a Scorpio as well. It could kind of be validating how the protagonist feels about her father. When it says I wanted to see the world through your eyes until it happened and I changed my mind, that's pretty heavy. I believe it's talking about the protagonist wanting to understand her father, why he is the way he is, why maybe he made the decisions that he did. It seems like she did get some of that insight, right? And as soon as she got that insight, she realized that she didn't want it. She didn't want to understand him. She didn't want to understand his reasoning. She didn't want to understand why everything is the way it is. It sounds like she was able to get closer to her father, but then while getting closer, she realized that she would prefer to be further apart from him, at least in regards to getting insight into his decision making and thought processes. Sometimes some things just are what they are. Just because you can gain some insight about why someone is the way they are, it doesn't mean that person is going to change. And it also doesn't mean that your relationship will improve either. Intentionality doesn't matter. I'm extrapolating here. I have no idea. Maybe the protagonist wanted to know why the father made some decisions, like what the intent was. But sometimes intentionality doesn't matter as much. The results, the consequences are what matter. Like if a person accidentally broke your favorite vase, I'm using a very like not dramatic example, that would be really sad for you, right? Because it's literally your favorite vase. They apologize, they're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Like it wasn't my intention. However, whether or not the intent was to break your vase, the reality and the consequence is that the vase is no longer in existence the way it was before. So that's another thing that I'm thinking about here. Maybe like going back and understanding why a person did the things they did. There may not be any value in that because it's not going to change the past. The past is what led to the present, and the past is what led to you existing in this dynamic with them. So there's a lot of different angles through which you can view these lyrics, and I would love to know what you think down below in the comments. Guess I lied. I'm a liar. Who lies? Because I'm a liar. That's kind of the tone with which I'm reading the last verse. I sense a little bit of sarcasm and a little bit of sass. Whether or not there is some sarcasm or not, I do think that there is also some pain. I don't know for sure what the protagonist lied about. This whole song could have been a lie in its entirety. That's a possibility. There could be one detail in this song that was a lie that the listener is not going to know. That's another way to interpret it. Maybe the very last thing that was said, I want to see the world through your eyes until it happened, then I changed my mind. Maybe that is the lie here. Or maybe this is just in reference to the protagonist maybe being called a liar by someone, maybe by their father, I don't know, and them kind of mocking the sentiment back to them. So maybe it's like kind of throwing some shade. So I personally do think that it's throwing a little bit of shade in that it's about something that the listener is not aware of. That's the interpretation that resonates with me the most right now, but I would love to know what you think in the comments below. What I find really interesting about this song is that Kyoto is only present in the first two verses, and then we have one verse in Southern California, and the rest of the song doesn't have a setting assigned to it. I do view Kyoto as being like a place that was the catalyst for some sort of epiphany. I think that's why it's important to the protagonist. All right, that's all I have. Please let me know what you think of in the comments below. I would really love to hear your take. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and to subscribe if you haven't already. If you want. Bye!